The US Marines just launched a raid so dangerous, it almost turned into a massacre. What happens when elite forces cross into cartel territory with just 90 seconds to execute before reinforcements arrive? And how did these Marines dismantle a billion-dollar drug empire while surrounded by armed guards who had home field advantage? Join us as we break down a mission that pushed America's finest to their absolute limit. Section 1. The silent approach. On the night of April 18, 2025, a force of 32 US Marines launched from Camp Pendleton in California on a mission that would take them deep into enemy territory. 4 CH-53E Super Stallion helicopters lifted off at 0200 hours, carrying Marines from the 1st Reconnaissance Battalion. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were specially trained operators chosen for their ability to work in extreme conditions. The helicopters flew without navigation lights, maintaining complete radio silence as they headed southeast. Their destination was a heavily fortified cartel compound located 47 miles inside the Mexican border, hidden in the rugged mountains of Sonora. Intelligence reports indicated the site was producing over 2 tons of fentanyl monthly, enough deadly product to kill millions. The cartel running it wasn't just any criminal organization. This was a faction of the Sinaloa cartel known for extreme violence and sophisticated military-style defenses. Flying at night without lights is like driving blindfolded at highway speeds. The pilots relied entirely on night vision systems that turned darkness into shades of green. They flew at 300 feet above ground level, low enough to avoid radar detection, but high enough to clear mountain ridges. One miscalculation could send a 33-ton helicopter smashing into rock. The Marines inside wore full combat gear, weighing over 80 pounds each. Night vision goggles, body armor, weapons, ammunition, breaching tools, communication systems, and medical supplies. Every ounce mattered because they'd be moving fast once boots hit the ground. The temperature inside the helicopters hovered around 95 degrees. Sweat soaked through uniforms before they even reached the target. But heat wasn't their biggest problem. Intelligence showed the compound had at least 40 armed guards, watchtowers equipped with heavy machine guns, and a network of tunnels for quick escape. Worse, the cartel had acquired Russian-made portable air defense systems. If those helicopters got spotted early, surface-to-air missiles could turn the mission into a disaster before Marines even landed. Section 2. Entering the kill zone. The lead pilot spotted the compound through thermal imaging. The facility sprawled across 12 acres of cleared jungle. 6 main buildings formed the production center, surrounded by concrete walls topped with razor wire. Guard towers stood at each corner, manned by armed sentries scanning the perimeter with searchlights. The helicopters split into 2 groups. 2 aircraft circled wide to approach from the north, while the other 2 came in from the south. This pincer movement would divide the cartel's defensive focus and prevent all Marines from being caught in a single kill zone. The formation broke apart smoothly, each pair of helicopters banking hard in opposite directions. As they descended toward their insertion points, warning lights flashed in the cockpits. Ground radar had painted them. The cartel's surveillance systems had detected incoming aircraft. The element of surprise was gone. What happened next would determine whether this became a successful raid or a deadly ambush. The pilots pushed their aircraft into steep dives, dropping altitude fast to get below the radar coverage. They dove from 300 feet to just 50 feet above the treetops in seconds. The sudden descent pressed everyone against their restraints. Stomachs lurched, equipment rattled, but they couldn't slow down now. Muzzle flashes erupted from the guard towers. Heavy machine gun fire tore through the night air, tracer rounds streaking toward the incoming helicopters like deadly fireworks. Bullets punched through the thin aluminum skin of the aircraft, but the Super Stallions were built tough. They kept flying. Section 3. Boots on the ground. The helicopters reached their landing zones simultaneously. Before the skids even touched dirt, Marines were already moving. Fast ropes deployed from the side doors, thick braided lines dropping 40 feet to the ground. The first operators grabbed the ropes and slid down in controlled falls, hitting the ground in under 3 seconds. 8 Marines from each helicopter landed and immediately formed a defensive perimeter. They spread out in a semicircle, weapons raised, scanning for threats through their night vision. The moment all boots were down, the helicopters lifted off again, banking away from the compound to avoid becoming stationary targets. Now, the Marines were alone, surrounded by hostile forces in the middle of cartel territory. The nearest friendly support was 47 miles away. If things went wrong, extraction would take at least 20 minutes. That's an eternity in combat. Team Alpha moved toward the main production building from the north. Team Bravo approached the storage warehouses from the south. Both teams moved fast, using hand signals instead of radio chatter. Every Marine knew the plan. Get in, secure the targets, plant charges, and get out before cartel reinforcements arrived from nearby compounds. The compound erupted with activity. Cartel guards ran from buildings, some only half-dressed, scrambling to defensive positions. Searchlights swept across the grounds, hunting for the intruders. Shouts in Spanish echoed through the night as commanders tried to organize a response. Team Alpha reached the outer wall first. 2 Marines carried portable breaching charges, compact explosives, designed to blow through reinforced barriers. They placed the charges against the concrete, set the timer for 5 seconds, and everyone backed away. The explosion ripped a hole through the wall, concrete chunks flying in all directions. Before the dust settled, Marines were rushing through. Section 4. The firefight. Gunfire erupted immediately. Cartel guards opened up with AK-47 rifles from inside the compound, bullets kicking up dirt around the Marines' boots. The Marines returned fire with controlled bursts, their M4 carbines barking in rapid succession. Unlike the wild spray and pray tactics of the cartel fighters, every Marine shot was aimed. A guard emerged from behind a truck, raising his weapon. A Marine sniper positioned 200 yards out dropped him with a single shot before he could fire. Another guard appeared on a rooftop. He was eliminated just as quickly. The Marines moved like a machine, each operator covering specific sectors, communicating through subtle gestures and brief radio clicks. Team Bravo breached the storage warehouse. Inside, they found exactly what intelligence predicted: rows of industrial equipment for processing fentanyl barrels of chemical precursors imported from China, packaging materials, counting machines, and stacks of finished product ready for distribution. This single facility was pumping poison into American communities on a massive scale. While Bravo secured the warehouse, Alpha Team pushed deeper into the compound. They cleared buildings methodically, room by room, using tactical entries perfected through years of training. Flashbangs preceded each breach, disorienting anyone inside. Marines followed immediately after, weapons raised, ready to engage any threats. The cartel fighters weren't giving up easily. They knew this compound represented millions of dollars and strategic importance. Losing it would be a devastating blow. Some guards fought desperately, firing from behind cover, trying to slow the Marine advance. Others attempted to escape through the tunnel network that honeycombed beneath the facility, but the Marines had planned for that too. Before the main assault, a reconnaissance team had identified the tunnel exits and positioned blocking forces. When cartel members emerged from hidden trapdoors outside the compound walls, they found Marines waiting. There would be no escape. Section 5. The ticking clock. 9 minutes into the ground operation, the Marines had secured all primary objectives. The production buildings were under control. The warehouses were cleared, cartel resistance was collapsing. Now came the next critical phase: demolition. Combat engineers moved quickly through each building, placing C4 explosive charges at structural points. They wired everything together into a single detonation network. The goal wasn't just to destroy the facility, it was to obliterate it completely, ensuring the cartel couldn't rebuild or salvage anything useful. While engineers worked, the security teams maintained their perimeter. They knew reinforcements would be coming. Intelligence indicated the cartel had additional forces stationed at compounds 15 miles away. Those fighters would be mobilizing right now, loading into trucks, racing to defend this critical site. The Marines had maybe 15 minutes before those reinforcements arrived in force. Against overwhelming numbers in unfamiliar terrain, even elite operators faced long odds. Speed was everything. The team leaders checked in via radio. All charges set. All personnel accounted for. Time to leave. They signaled the extraction helicopters, which had been orbiting 5 miles out, waiting for the call. The Super Stallions turned and accelerated toward the compound. As the demolition teams finished their work, a Marine spotted something troubling. Headlights in the distance. Lots of them. A convoy of vehicles was approaching fast along the mountain road. The reinforcements were arriving earlier than expected. The clock had just sped up dramatically. Section 6. The narrow escape. The Marines collapsed their perimeter, pulling back toward the extraction zones. They moved in coordinated teams, some providing covering fire while others advanced. The discipline was impressive. No panic, no confusion. Just trained professionals executing under pressure. The cartel convoy was closing fast. Through night vision, the Marines could see pickup trucks loaded with armed fighters, at least a dozen vehicles. If those reinforcements arrived before extraction, the Marines would be pinned down in a sustained firefight they couldn't win. The helicopters thundered in low and fast, their rotor wash kicking up massive clouds of dust. They flared hard, noses lifting as they descended toward the landing zones. Before the skids touched ground, Marines were already running toward them, weapons still trained outward, ready to engage any threats. The lead helicopter took fire from the approaching convoy. Bullets sparked off the armored fuselage. The door gunner returned fire with a .50 caliber machine gun. The heavy weapon hammering away at the distant vehicles, one truck exploded as rounds found the fuel tank. Another swerved off the road. Marines scrambled aboard in organized chaos. Team leaders counted heads, ensuring everyone was accounted for. The last man aboard barely had both feet on the deck when the pilot pulled collective, lifting off in a steep climb. The other helicopters followed suit, all 4 aircraft rising together. As they climbed away from the compound, the demolition charges detonated. The explosions came in sequence, each building collapsing in massive fireballs. The main production facility disappeared in a mushroom cloud of orange flame and black smoke. Secondary explosions followed as chemical barrels ignited. The entire compound was consumed in minutes. The Marines watched through the helicopter doors as the facility burned. Months of cartel operations, millions in infrastructure, countless doses of deadly drugs, all reduced to rubble and ash. Mission accomplished. But they weren't safe yet. The helicopters raced north at maximum speed, hugging the terrain to avoid detection. Mexican military radar would be tracking them now. The diplomatic fallout from this cross-border operation would be significant. Getting back to American airspace quickly was essential. Section 7, the aftermath. The helicopters crossed back into US territory after a flight lasting 48 minutes. Total mission time from insertion to extraction, 57 minutes. Not a single Marine was killed. 3 suffered minor injuries from shrapnel and ricochets. 1 helicopter took 14 bullet hits but remained fully operational. Considering they'd just raided a fortified cartel compound, the casualties were remarkably light. Back at Camp Pendleton, the Marines climbed out of the helicopters, gear soaked with sweat, faces blackened with dust and smoke. They'd successfully destroyed one of the largest fentanyl production facilities in Mexico. Intelligence estimates suggested the raid eliminated roughly $800 million in annual cartel revenue. But this operation represented more than just a successful raid. It demonstrated the capability and willingness of US forces to strike directly at cartel infrastructure when necessary. For years, the drug war had been fought through proxies and partnerships with Mexican authorities. This mission proved that when cartels become national security threats, America could respond with precision military force. The cartel didn't take the loss quietly. Within 24 hours, they released videos threatening retaliation. Cartel leaders vowed to strike back against American interests. Security was increased at border facilities and military installations throughout the Southwest. The message was clear: this wasn't over. Military analysts debated whether the raid would ultimately succeed in disrupting drug flows. Some argued that destroying one facility would barely impact the cartel's overall operations. Others insisted that demonstrating the ability to strike anywhere, anytime, would force cartels to divert resources toward security rather than production. What nobody disputed was the skill and bravery of the Marines who executed the mission. They'd flown deep into hostile territory, fought through determined resistance, achieved all objectives, and brought everyone home. That's what elite forces do. These Marines executed one of the boldest raids in recent military history, striking deep into cartel territory and walking away virtually unscathed. The question is, will this operation actually slow the flow of fentanyl into American communities? Or will the cartels simply rebuild elsewhere? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more breakdowns of military operations that pushed the limits, make sure you're subscribed. Thanks for watching.